In this video for section 7.3, we're going to talk about sampling distributions for proportions. The population proportion is denoted with the letter P. P stands for proportion. And just like with sample means, we have the sample proportions, P bar, that come up if we take different samples, we get slightly different values for P bar. And so it has a probability distribution called the sampling distribution. The P bar here is similar to when we have the mean for a sample, we label it with X bar. So let's look at Theorem 5. It says sampling distribution of P bar. Regardless of the value of the population proportion P, the sampling distribution for the sample proportion is approximately normally distributed. So this tells us that we're going to be using the normal distribution. With mu equal to P. So that's the mean. And the standard deviation is equal to the square root of P times 1 minus P divided by N. So this means we're going to be using the normal distribution in Minitab. The mean that we're going to put in is the value for P, and we're going to calculate the standard deviation using this formula. So let's look at an example problem. It says marketing managers at Online Coupons Incorporated have determined that 15% of coupons go unused. What is the probability that out of 500 coupons sold for one particular retailer, 18% or more will go unused? So my mean is going to be the 15%. That's the population proportion, or the proportion in the population that go unused. My standard deviation, I'm going to calculate using the formula above. Square root of P times 1 minus P divided by N. So square root, P is 0.15, and then we have 1 minus 0.15, or I could just put 0.85 if I can do that in my head, and then divided by the sample size, which is 500. So I'm going to type that into my calculator. I have my Desmos calculator here. If you're having trouble finding a calculator or using a phone calculator, I recommend that you use the calculator on this website, desmos.com, the scientific calculator. It works very well, and it's free. So my answer here for standard deviation, 0.0159687. If I round to 4 digits after the decimal point, it would round up to 0.0160. Remember that you want to probably keep at least 4 digits after the decimal point when you're putting a rounded standard deviation into Minitab, just to make sure that your answer is as accurate as possible. So when I'm putting this into Minitab, what my question is asking here is, what is the probability? And so if the question is, what is the probability, that tells me that I'm going to put in an X value. I want to know the probability that 18% or more will go unused. So that tells me that I'm going to be doing a right tail because more is on the right. And my X is going to equal that 18%. I'm going to need to put that in as a decimal. Just like I also need to put in the mean 15% as a decimal. Now it's a little bit tricky here because when you're doing proportion problems, oftentimes the X value is going to look like a probability because it will be written as a decimal or a percent. But just remember, if the question is asking what is the probability, then you are putting in the X value. So let's go to Minitab. I'm going to go to the normal distribution, just like we've been doing, and put in my mean and the standard deviation that I calculated. Choose a specified X value, right tail, and enter my X value of 0.18. Click OK. Here's my graph. And the answer is 0.0304 if I round to 4 digits after the decimal point. Now let's take a minute to interpret this. So in this situation, we have the coupon company, and we're saying that the probability that out of 500 coupons sold, 18% or more will go unused is only about 3%, if this is the probability for the population, 15%. So this means that it's not very likely. 3% is not a very high probability. And so what that tells us is that there's probably something wrong with the website or with the customer's ability to use the coupons if so many coupons are not being used.